As she grew older, a few young men in the village began noticing her beauty and intelligence. Sometimes they tried to stop her on the road to greet or talk to her. Each time it happened, Chinasa immediately told her grandmother. Without delay, her grandmother would visit the young man's family and firmly warn them to stay away from her granddaughter. Soon, everyone in the village knew that Chinasa was under her grandmother's careful protection. One rainy evening, dark clouds covered the sky, and heavy rain poured across the village. That night, Chinasa accompanied her grandmother to the hospital during the night shift, as she sometimes did. Everything was quiet until the hospital door suddenly burst open. A pregnant woman stumbled inside, exhausted and soaked by the rain. She had come alone. She was already in labor. Her husband was nowhere to be found. She carried only a small bag with a few clothes because she had rushed to the hospital as soon as the labor pains became unbearable. As the nurses prepared for the delivery, discovered something important. The woman had forgotten to bring tissue paper. To make matters worse, the hospital had completely run out of tissue. The grandmother looked around anxiously. There wasn't enough time. She turned to Chinaza. "My child," she said calmly, "go quickly to Mama Ngozi's shop and buy a roll of tissue. Take 15 naira from my handbag." There was no electricity. Only the dim glow of a lantern lit the room. Chinaza reached into the handbag but couldn't see properly. She picked the first note her fingers touched, believing it was the right amount, and hurried out without checking. The rain had stopped, but the night remained frighteningly dark. Wanting to reach the shop quickly, she took the narrow shortcut through a lonely bush path. The wind blew softly. The trees swayed. The only sounds were crickets and rustling leaves. Then, crunch! Someone stepped on dry leaves behind her. She froze. The sound stopped. She took another step. Crunch! The footsteps returned. Her breathing became heavy. She began walking faster. The footsteps grew faster too. Fear gripped her heart. Slowly, she turned around. In the darkness, she could barely make out the shadow of a man walking toward her. Her heart pounded. Without thinking, she screamed and ran. The footsteps followed. She ran with all her strength, tears streaming down her face. She prayed as she ran. "God, please help me." Finally, she burst onto the busy roadside where Mama Ngozi's small shop stood. She rushed inside, shaking from head to toe. "My child!" Mama Ngozi exclaimed. "What happened?" Still crying, Chinaza struggled to speak. I came for tissue, for the hospital. Someone was chasing me." The people nearby quickly gathered around to comfort her. When it was time to pay, Chinaza handed over the note she had taken from the handbag. Mama Ngozi looked at it and smiled kindly. "My dear, your grandmother asked you to bring 15 naira, but you've brought a much larger note." Only then did Chinaza realize she had taken the wrong money because of the darkness. Embarrassed, she covered her face and cried even harder. Mama Ngozi gently comforted her. "It's all right. I'll give you the tissue now and return the balance to your grandmother tomorrow." Seeing how terrified the young girl was, the people at the shop called a security guard to escort her safely back to the hospital. As they walked through the shortcut, everyone searched carefully for the mysterious man. But whoever had been following her had vanished into the darkness. When they arrived at the hospital, the security guard looked at Chinaza's grandmother with concern. "Mama," he said, "please don't ever send this little girl out alone at night again. Anything could have happened." The grandmother lowered her head. "I know," she replied softly. "It was an emergency, and there was no one else to send. Thank God she returned safely." The security guard nodded before leaving. With the tissue finally available, the hospital staff continued caring for the woman.